Welcome back, guys. Rodrigo with another episode for Asheville Real Estate News. Today, joined by Luke Rutherford, who's an agent at C21, formerly Hi-Alta Real Estate, and great conversation. We talk about what it looks like to be an agent in your first year, the highs, the lows, his opinion on where the market's going over the next 4 to 6 months. And we also had a really good spirited debate, conversation, argument, whatever you want to call it, on whether you should own a home or whether you should rent. And yeah, I'd love to know your thoughts about that as well. As always, please leave us a rating, review, share with your friend, and we'll see you all in the next one. Take care. Well, Luke, welcome to the show, man. Excited to have you here to chat real estate, talk about your life as a real estate agent and everything. Thanks for being here.
Thanks, Rodrigo. I appreciate you coming. I appreciate you having me on, and I love these podcasts. I love it being free flowing and all of that. Yeah,
this is our second podcast conversation. We had I don't remember, was it a year ago now that I was on your show?
Yeah, it was quite a while ago.
It was. So, but let's start at the very beginning. So are you Asheville native? Are you not? And while you answer that, why real estate? How'd you get into it?
Yeah, Asheville native for sure. And people, when they hear that, they're like, look at you like you're an alien or something. Because when you say you're born and raised here, not many people are born and raised here. So that's kind of something I've definitely stuck to with my marketing and trying to set myself apart, because there's a lot of agents in the Asheville area. But why real estate? For a lot of people, I think I have the same answer. It's practical, something you can touch, something you can go out and look at. When you put your money into it or your time into it, to reiterate, it's physical. You can go out there, get your hands on it, and it's practical. So that's why, and the sky is the limit, obviously. That's what everyone says. However much money you want to make, that you can make it. Depends on how hard you want to work. So, that's why real estate.
Yeah, I've always loved the component of real estate that, like, there's probably hundreds, thousands of ways to be involved in real estate one way or the other, and have all of the benefits of real estate as far as, the flexibility, unlimited ceiling, essentially, things like that brings it to you. So, it's a good thing. So what were you doing before real estate?
So before real estate, I was just in school doing video production, working for a couple businesses, and creating content for their social media platforms. That was cool, and I enjoyed it, and it was decently lucrative, but I wanted more, and I saw a quick ceiling to that. And, well, with it not being outsourced, with it not being, you can grow a media company to large lengths and make really good, but it takes a long time to get there. And I actually plan to be in the media industry again at some point. Yeah. Once I have the time and resources later down the road.
Yeah, it seems time intensive, right? Like anytime I've always heard, I don't edit or anything. I'm very thankful that Nolan's able and willing to do this, because it's a whole, I did at the very beginning. If anybody's listened to some of our podcasts where we talk about the start, you can hear about that. But it's like you record for 30 minutes and it takes you like an hour to put it together. It's crazy. When you were doing the media, though, did you know ahead of time you were doing real estate? Was it like a stepping stone, or were you were like, I'm going to do media, and then you're like, never mind, I'm not going to do media, and looked for an alternative?
That's a good question. I know it was definitely a stepping stone. Yeah. I needed to give myself some time, some cushion, a learning timetable for me to get prepared for kind of the real estate industry. And to be honest, I'll just be transparent. I was pretty intimidated about getting into real estate. Being young, being just kind of ignorant to the industry. Yeah. And so whenever you look at the real estate industry, you see these seasoned old veterans who've been in it for so long, and you're like, well, how would I ever compete against them?
Right.
How would I ever make that a living? So that was part of it. But to answer your question, yeah, I knew media and videography was a stepping stone, but I still loved it, and like I said, I still want to be it in at some point. So, yeah.
And so, what was that transition like then? Like, what happened for you to like, okay, I'm gonna go to school, sit in class, take the test. Yeah. Did you pass the first time? I
passed the first time, and to be honest, it was the first time I've ever took a test serious in my life because in school, as most people can contest to this, whenever you are in class, as long as you do the homework and the paperwork and the maybe the little quizzes, and you get 80s, 90s, 100s on those, you can pretty much flunk the test and still get a B average in most classes, unless you're taking some advanced courses. But the real estate exam was something I actually, it was the first test I ever took serious and studied every single day. And I was like, people were telling me like, do you feel prepared? And I was like, well, this is the first time I've actually studied for a test, so I'm not sure.
I don't know what feeling prepared means.
Yeah, exactly. But it was good. And to be honest, I started a year or 2 years ago, almost at this point, I started dating a girl, and her father was this is getting real transparent here. Her father is the owner of Hi-Alta Real Estate, and
so you knew where you were going then.
Yeah. They were like, you should think about getting your real estate license, and I had always thought about it, but I was like, you know what, I want to do it. And it was almost like I didn't feel prepared at all, and I just kind of went online, clicked the sign up button, paid the money, and I was like, I'm not even probably going to use this real estate license for a little bit. Yeah. And then I ended up going full time as soon as I was licensed.
So what happened then? It seems like you kind of went into it based on what you said, not sure if it was a right decision or not, but then you came out on the other side and you jumped right in? Like, why?
Yeah. Jumped right in because I was just curious and interested in like how it all worked. Like, how do I get paid for selling a house and stuff like that? I was super interested in that process, and it's nothing like they told me that it was going to be like. So anyone who's out there looking to get to be a licensed agent, I don't want to badmouth anyone, but if they tell you it's all going to be roses and easy and you're going to be making this much money off this house and all you got to do is sell this many homes to make this much money, don't buy into that too much, because it's going to be a little bit harder than what you think.
So I don't have my license, but when I got into real estate, it was the same thing. It was like there's a lot of hype around how straightforward investing was, and from what I've heard from different like agents I've talked to, and kind of matches up with what he said. It's like, well, if you sell 15 houses a year and then you do the math, like you're gonna be so happy. It's like, well, can we talk about what it takes to sell 15 houses or whatever those numbers are?
Exactly.
And how long? Like, yes, it's obviously very achievable, but depending who you are, it might take you a year, 2 years to get to that point to build that momentum, I'm sure.
Exactly. Momentum is everything too.
Yeah.
I'm glad you said that.
Do you feel you have momentum?
Yeah, absolutely. And it took 6 to 8 plus months.
Not talking numbers, but I'm curious to know, how did you know that you had momentum? What was happening for you to be like, I have momentum, and like really feel that?
Busiest I've ever been in my entire life. And having to coordinate with closing attorneys. So
attorneys.
So like, you know that you're getting to the closing table, and I think momentum for me is super important, because that's something it's a good base ground layer you can start working off of. Yeah. When you jump into the real estate industry, you're as an agent, you're starting from absolutely nothing. You have no contacts, and it's tough. Yeah, it really is tough. And I'm not saying that to make to make me seem like some type of achieved, but I feel for new agents, because it's not for everybody. And
but I'd agree with that, but I think no matter what industry you're talking about, that's always going to be a true statement, right? No no career, no job, no industries for everybody, right? Like there are certain people who are going to naturally gravitate and have skill sets that are going to help them do well. So how long have you been an agent now?
Licensed, coming up on a full year in like a month. Yeah, it's kind of crazy.
Yeah. So why? So you were at Hi-Alta.
Yeah, I was at Hi-Alta.
Why Hi-Alta? Did you consider? I mean, you said girlfriend's dad.
Yeah,
was the Bic. So
my girlfriend's dad was the owner. Of Hi-Alta.
And did you even consider going anywhere else?
Yeah.
Did you get courted? Did you go ask?
No.
How was that process like?
No, Kevin Griffin. First off, one of the best guys I've ever met in the Asheville area, hands down. Does so much for the community. He told me, he said, Luke, don't come here because of Chelsea. Don't come here because of me.
Yeah.
That's not what this is about. It's being a right fit for you. So I went to Weikert. I went to KW.
Mm-hmm.
I went to a couple others, couple other big names, and they didn't feel right when I walked in, and no one even looked up at me from the cubicles and stuff like that. And that's part of the corporate.
Some people would like that, right?
Offices.
Some people would be like, no, good. I get to kind of fly under the radar. Nobody is aware of me, and other people are gonna be like, guys, talk to me.
You're exactly
What's going
right.
on?
You're exactly right. I kind of wanted that smaller feel where you know every other agent in the building and your friends. So that's why I chose Hi-Alta. And we can get into more.
I was about to ask you, so it's not Hi-Alta anymore, right?
Nope, no, it's not.
Now you went from boutique to national.
Yeah.
That's
crazy.
So somebody's not listening. Can you walk us through that transition, or somebody who's listening who's not aware of that transition and the name change and everything? Can you? What happened? Why did it happen? It seems like we might get some insider knowledge here. So that's exciting.
Yeah. So it was funny because you, Rodrigo, and Nolan were basically like, it seems like like one day Luke was working for Hi-Alta, then the next day was Century 21.
Yeah.
And I was like, people were asking me, did you change firms? And I was like, no, I did not change firms. I'm loyal to Hi-Alta. I mean, they've done so much for me. I don't ever see myself parting ways with them. But Century 21 franchising was multiple things going on. The biggest thing was that it was going to allow us to have access to just an enormous amount of marketing resources. And that was something that was going to cost a lot of money if we wanted to do it on our own end.
Yeah.
So Century 21 came in, and it wasn't Hi-Alta looking for anything as far as wanting to expand. Century 21 looked around at the Asheville real estate market and came to us and
started
said,
knocking doors, essentially.
Yeah, and said, do you guys want to come on board with us? We're not going to change anything about your office. We're not going to make any more rules that you guys have to abide by. All we're going to do is come in. You guys are going to use our name, our brand for more brand awareness. You're still going to put Hi-Alta on with it. You guys are just going to have access to a lot more resources and marketing tools. So the biggest thing I would say why is brand awareness and exposure and marketing. Yeah. That's what real estate is, a lot of it.
Has it come true?
Yes.
The promises that were made?
Yes. I would say for me, though, my biggest brand is my name and my face.
Yeah.
So as a firm, yes. I mean, when you look at the number of leads we're getting just from
the name change,
I would say rough numbers, we were getting maybe 3 or 4 like organic, like SEO leads.
Yep.
Compared to 10, 15 plus a month. So it's tripled or quadrupled the numbers.
Wow. Yeah, that's a big jump there.
Yeah, it is. So I think it was I know it was a really smart move, and I'm glad it was doable.
You said, and let's talk about that for a second. You said like that the biggest brand or whatnot that you have is your name, your face. Why do you believe that? Has that proven to be the case, or is it still a theory?
It's proven to be the case because putting my sign up in someone's front yard and someone calling me off the sign, not just because of they want the house, but congratulating me that I got a listing.
But is that people that know you already?
Yes.
So then, okay.
Yes. So that to me was, some people would say, well, that's just your friends congratulating you, but they weren't necessarily my friends either. They were just mostly someone who kind of knows of me. Why is it the case though that my name and my face are the biggest branding opportunity in real estate? Well, agents are their own business, even though they're under the firm. They're still I am Luke Rutherford. That's my business in real estate. I have to do everything and anything to set me apart from everyone else. I was gonna pick out a couple big names in the real estate industry, but I have to do everything possible.
Do you want to share? Like when you're right, because you're starting, you're a year in.
Yeah.
And so we had talked with Charles Boyett on the previous episode. Are you familiar with him? Asheville Real Estate Producers, or Asheville Real Producers.
Yep.
And it was fun. He's he has insight to the top 300 agents and talks to them all the time about like what makes them tick. So curious to know who are the people that you're looking up to in like a healthy way? Like, man, I really like what they do. That's what people I'd like to model my business after. If you want to share, I know that's kind of when you get into specifics, it's a little bit of a touchy subject. So,
I would say that there's no one in particular that I want to model my business after, because I want to be the I want to be like the Gary Vee or the or of course we all do, or the or the Grant Cardone, as far as like pumping out as much content as possible. There's no other real estate agent that's pumping out a large amount of content that I've seen. Well, they are pumping out some content, but it's new listing, under contract, blah blah. So that's not the content I'm looking for. More of a personal brand content. So I would say I do look up to younger successful agents like Alec Cantley with Premier Sotheby's. I think he is someone that I can see. He's got a lot of relationships with a lot of people who he does business with, that he doesn't necessarily have to go. I don't find it impressive when agents go and just spend hundreds and hundreds of dollars on leads. So I think a sustainable business is creating content, being a database for your community. So in Asheville, bringing on business owners, just creating as many friends as possible, and having a sustainable business that your sphere of influence is your main database of your clients.
So Gary Vee says something, right? He's like, whoever holds their breath the longest wins, right? Like that's and that's always resonated with me. How long do you think you have to hold your breath before some of this organic grunt work that you're talking about starts paying off, right? Because I mean, what you're talking about is doing the slow,
100%,
very slow grind to build brand awareness for yourself. And because you said you don't want to spend the money,
I'll still spend the money.
Oh, okay.
but it's like probably 80%, 20%, like 20% paid leads, and referrals type stuff. But 80% of my long game, like the podcasting and the kind of vlog style videos, that's all super long term. Like there's absolutely no
for forever
ROI. What's that?
Playing for forever.
Playing for forever. Yeah.
Yeah, it's I mean, obviously, I'm a big believer in the content game.
Yeah, absolutely.
And it's something that we do with Asheville Cash Buyers and Asheville Real Estate News. Try to keep things rolling there as much as possible. Have you felt that it's paid off for you?
Yes.
Or are you still like laying bricks?
Well, both. Yeah. I can see it finally starting to. Finally. But the first 8 months of being a real estate agent or being a broker, you are building. You're just building. And in the first year, you're still building. Second year, you're still building, but you're doing business. You're doing actual business.
Making things happen, yeah.
And then you just got to continue that.
Yeah. What if you look back, you said you're approaching a year mark, right?
Yeah.
What's the high and what's the low if you're willing to share?
I would say the low is being able to sort of put food on the table in the first couple months.
Yeah.
The high is I just put under $1 million under contract in a week.
Heck yeah, man.
So
Congratulations.
That was last week. So that's the low and that's the high.
Yeah.
So you gotta scrap and fight your first 8 months or so.
Yeah, I can't imagine that ever really goes away. You just scrap and fight in different arenas in a different way with different people, opponents, or whatever you want to look at it, right? Like, I can't imagine that it just goes on autopilot at any point.
Right, and that's a great point you made, because I was listening to a Century 21 agent in Myrtle Beach, Kevin Mills, I think his name is, and his first year in real estate, he did 42 transactions at 23 years old. Mm-hmm.
And his second year he did 0 or something?
His second year he did 80-something transactions. Jeez. Third year, 120-something. Fifth year, I think last year was his 5th year. He did 150 or 108, 60-something transactions.
Does he have a team, or is he just himself and an assistant or something?
Just one assistant, all by himself.
Man, good for him. That's crazy.
Yeah, it's absolutely insane. But he says, to go off what you were saying, he wakes up every day and says, I'm starting from 0.
Yeah.
And he says, I'm always 60 days out from being unemployed and so I thought that was an awesome point. It's like, no matter what you're doing now, you still got to wake up and make a sell.
Yeah. So let's talk about that. Why, do you, I mean, there seems to be that sometimes agents look down on investors. And maybe that's just coming from a place, because I am an investor. Mm-hmm. And obviously some agents are investors as well, and some agents are incredibly great to work with as an investor. But sometimes, investors get a little bit of a bad name. Mm-hmm. Why do you think that is? Because we're in the same game, doing the same things, trying to achieve the same goals, just choosing different avenues to get there.
I think a lot of people are insecure. And so anybody who as soon as I can start investing and doing any type of investing, I'm going to be doing that as well. So I think anyone who has a problem with someone making money in other ways in real estate other than just being licensed and selling homes, I think that's just an insecurity issue, that people think that everyone needs to be doing it their way. I know everyone knows there's multiple ways to make money in real estate.
It's like the beautiful thing, right?
Yeah, so I would say that agents just need to just kind of come to grips with the reality.
But I mean, do you think that's an accurate perception that I have? Or do you think I'm just like
I think
jaded and just totally like one-sided? Or like when you talk to people, you talk to other, does that come up? Or is it, no, like, Rodrigo, you're totally wrong. Like, people don't actually believe that.
You're right to a certain extent. Mm-hmm. I think some people give investors more credit than what you're realizing.
Yeah, and obviously, I'm not in agent circles, right? Sure. So that's kind of my question. I'm like, peer behind the curtains.
Oh yeah, I think that people give you guys more credit than what you guys realize. It's a game of hustle and it's hard work, and it's just as hard as being a licensed realtor. So to answer your question, I think what you're saying is right, but people still respect you and they respect investors in the game. Yeah.
How did you come up with your tagline?
What's my tagline?
I mean, it's an Asheville native looking to give back to my community at every opportunity.
Oh yeah. I don't know. So an Asheville native was the big thing I wanted to hit on, because being born and raised here, like I said, it's a unicorn. Not many people. Yeah. Looking to give back to my community at every opportunity. That is something that, that's why I'm in real estate. So brokerage is just a stepping stone for another thing.
What's the other thing?
I want to I want Rutherford in real estate to be just everywhere in Asheville. Mm-hmm. So I want to build communities that are affordable. Mm-hmm. I want to get into development. I want to invest. I want to have rental opportunities. So giving back to my community, just giving them the ability to live somewhere. Everyone deserves to have a roof over their head. So that's, for me right now, the most rewarding thing I've found. Mm-hmm. Helping a single mom with 3 kids find a house. And it's not a big commission check for me. Mm-hmm. But they deserve as much representation as anyone out there. And like that's why I'm in the game, because things like that. So it's a great feeling whenever you find them a home. Mm-hmm. They're absolutely in love with it. It might not be the best home in the world, or it might not be someone's ideal home, but it's one of the best feelings ever, because, you know, you're helping them create a better future for themselves. So giving back to my community, like I said, that's what I want to do. I want to build, I want to develop, I want to create rental opportunities that's affordable for everybody. And it's a big goal, but that's why I'm starting. That's why I'm starting right now. And this community has done a lot for me as well, being born and raised here. Teachers, mentors, coaches, people who've brought me in, helped me. Like, community's done so much for me, so I got to repay them back, and that's what I want to do.
Awesome. So, wrapping up, quick couple questions. You mentioned affordable housing.
Yeah.
From an agent's perspective.
Yeah.
How is that addressed? Personal opinion.
How is it addressed?
How do we take a step forward in the right direction there?
It's going to be that's going to be a tough one.
And I mean, I know that there's like a million hoops that no matter whatever this direction you decide to go with this question, there's still going to be a million hoops that have to be jumped through, right? So
100%.
I want to acknowledge that there's no easy answer here, but I'm just curious, because I'm trying to collect these responses, because it's got to figure out something. Yeah,
and like I said, it's a super important thing to me, because just being a realtor and doing business, seeing how many people can't afford the prices here, and honestly, like, gets me pretty emotional when I can't find somebody or a small family a home that they need a roof over the head. Everyone deserves that. So, you know, it would really come down to, I think, a large group of people coming together in the area with the same goal, with the same intent, and basically creating something that hasn't been done before in the area, a local organization that, you know, helps these families get affordable homes, because the prices are pretty insane right now. The only way to stop the prices just keep going and going and going up. Well, there's no way to stop it, but it's a lot of the percentages, the people moving here and being willing to pay those prices. Every time someone comes here and pays the premium for a house, and it keeps happening again and again and again and again. And well, each homeowner, when they go to sell the home, they look over next street and say, "Oh, that one sold for $380. We're selling this ours for $390." Yeah, and it's just a domino effect. So that's something that's kind of out of hand. You can't really control what people are willing to spend for housing.
So on that note, should you buy? Or is renting a better choice?
Depends on which
first-time home buyer.
Each micro market is going to tell you a different answer.
Here
in Asheville, for a first-time home buyer.
Yeah, like if you're like, should I rent? Should I buy?
If you're a first-time home buyer and wanting to buy in Hall Creek, I would say you might need to rent before you go buy in Hall Creek or somewhere like that.
In general, conceptually speaking.
It's a hard
general
question.
Do you think home ownership right off the bat is a good thing for people?
I think so. I think that if you have two buckets here and you're filling up Rodrigo's bucket, or if you're filling up your own bucket, I think it's better to fill up your own bucket. But if you are in a position that you don't have the credit, you don't have the down payment, you can't fill up your own bucket and get that money back whenever you go sell your home, putting money in somebody else's bucket is fine. And there's actually good things to that because...
But that's not a choice, though. You're not making a choice, right? Like, if you can't buy a home, then it's not like you're choosing to not buy a home. If you have the choice to buy a house, should you, is the question.
Yeah, if you're able to buy a house, you should almost always own. I think renting is the best thing in the world when it comes to people not being able to afford a home. So if you can't afford a home, yes, you should rent. But if you can't afford a home, no, I don't see why...
But home ownership is good, right? So
yeah, home ownership is good.
Based on the argument you're making, because of appreciation, essentially,
because
right?
Appreciation, yes.
But you were just talking about how that's a bad thing right now.
Owning a home?
Appreciation.
Appreciation,
Buying a house and then selling it down the road for more profit because somebody's able to come and pay back.
It's a market that keeps going up and keeps going down, and it will
which
do that
is the
forever.
exact reason to buy a home in theory. Right?
Sure. And there's good times and bad times to buy a home. So
the reason I bring it up, or sorry, if you have anything else to say, go for it, and then I'll kind of give you my 2 cents.
I would say, yeah, you can get burned buying a house sometimes. So 5 years down the road, you sell your house, and you bought in a super, super hot market, and things stopped appreciating, and you're not going to be able to sell your home for as much as you bought it for. That's very possible. So, but at the same token, can you hold off for another 4 or 5 years? You're most likely going to get your money back or make more. So, anyways,
maybe. I think that
do you own a car or rent a car?
Do I own or rent a car?
Do you lease a car or own a car?
No, I own a car.
I think there's good things to owning. Basically, anything you can own, I think it's good to.
But I rent.
I know.
And I think I'll say this every time it comes up because I think it's important that we remember that home ownership isn't just about saving money, because it may or may not be. So you can't bank on appreciation, right? Like if anybody's investing based on appreciation, what's everybody going to say? That's a bad idea. Don't invest on appreciation.
Right, and it's future tense. You don't know what's going to happen.
Exactly. Yet, that's the same argument that everybody uses for home ownership. So why, I struggle with understanding why there's a disconnect there. If you're saying don't invest your money for appreciation, yet you're saying, oh, buy a house because that's a form of investing.
Yes.
But the reason you're buying a house as a homeowner, as an investment, is on appreciation. But if I were to buy a house as an investor based on appreciation, everybody would be like, oh, it's a terrible idea, Rodrigo. Why would you do that? So there's a major disconnect in those two ideas. And then 30 seconds more, then go for it, the rebuttal. And then I think that the other thing people forget is things break. There's unknowns. Property taxes go up. And if you're not ready for that, your monthly mortgage expense is going to go from $1,100 to $1,300 or $1,400. And if you're just doing everything in your power to get into your house and you don't have savings because you used all of your savings for your down payment, then what do? That's golden handcuffs. And that's tough. I don't think, I bring it up because I see this. I buy houses from folks who bought a house. 2 years later, they're like, I can't afford this house. The water heater broke. I can't fix it. I need to sell before it makes it bad. That's crazy.
Yeah, absolutely. I think in that scenario, they probably shouldn't have owned a home in the first place. If they know if their water heater went out or something like that, or if their mortgage went up $200 so they couldn't afford it.
But nobody talks about this though, right?
Right.
Everybody's like, it's just cheaper to pay. Your mortgage is cheaper than rent. And that's the argument for home ownership. And that's
there's more to it than that. I think that in that same scenario, they probably shouldn't have bought a home.
Agreed.
If they knew down the road if something changed any bit that they wouldn't be able to afford it. That's not a smart financial move. I think anyone would agree with that.
I think I disagree. I think there's a lot of people who'd say if you can buy a home, no matter what, do it. because you can always sell it for more.
That's a very broad statement. I try to steer away from super broad statements like that, but I understand where you're getting
right,
at.
But I'm just saying, like, is there? I guess maybe from an agent's perspective, I see it on Facebook all the time. They're like, "Did you know the average mortgage payment is $980 and average rent is $1,300? Do everything you can to buy." It's like, well, and so.
Well, do you think that, on the other hand, do you think that you'll always rent? So always when it comes to.
So here's my opinion on home ownership on it, right? I think that I disagree with the premise that owning a home as your primary investment or as your primary residence is an investment, because it's not, right? Just because something can make you money doesn't make it an investment, right? Like playing, gambling can make you money, but then nobody's going to sit here and say it's an investment, right? I think that if you're buying a home, you should be real with yourself, and it's because there's emotion behind it. Because if you were to tell me that you're going to make better if you put 10, 20% down, and you're going to make a better return on that 10, 20% down plus whatever goes into the house, you're saying that that's the best use of 30 grand. You're not going to make a better return on 30, 40 grand somewhere else. I'd be hard pressed to agree with that. And I think everybody agrees appreciation is not a criteria for investing.
So you're never going to own a home ever?
I probably will, but it's not. Okay. But it's going to be an emotional decision, right? Like it's going to be, all right, let's do something so we can have complete control and all. And like, I'm not like anti-home ownership. I mean, a little bit. I think that renting, if you're getting started and you're trying to build a solid financial base and really start to build wealth and all of these things, man, take that same down payment and go buy a rental. You get all of the benefits of appreciation, but then you also get the cash flow, right? Then you're like, that's the way to go, in my opinion. Like, I think you should rent and buy a rental, rent and buy 2 rentals, and then once do that a couple of times, and then those rentals can cover your mortgage payment and your primary residence, and then you're living for free off of investments. But right now you buy a house and you have nothing to invest, essentially. Like, I mean, how many people are buying a house and then they have no excess cash? Because I'm sure most people qualify for 150 and they're looking for 150. Nobody's like, oh, I qualified for 150. Let's buy $100,000 house.
Well, depends on who you're asking. Some people will be like that. Some people will be the other way. So what would you think would happen if there was only a small percentage of homeowners? Because if you have rentals, you own a home.
Right. So I think real estate's a great investment, right? Like, obviously.
So what would happen if no one owned a home and everyone was renting, and there was a small percentage of people who were owning all of the homes and everyone else was renting from them?
But that's what happened before, and you had a more stable economy. What do you think happened in the 1900s, early 1900s?
I think that would pose a definite problem for people not building.
I'm in Columbia. I live in Columbia. To buy a house in Columbia or an apartment, you're putting 50% down.
It's a large amount down.
Yeah. And I think that there's a lot of benefits for something like that. I don't sell
real estate in Columbia, though. So
no, it'd be crazy, right? It'd be so hard. But I think, like, think about this right now. If you buy a house and you only have to put 3% down, like, are there benefits to that? Yes, of course, right? I'm not like saying that there's not. But that also means people aren't saving as much as they probably should. Think about it. If you had to save up to put 40% down on a house, you don't think that would change your saving habits?
Putting 40% down on a house?
Yeah, if you knew to buy a house, you need to put 40% down. You don't think you would save differently than operating that, like, under the belief you could buy a house for 5% down? You don't think it would change your personal financial habits?
I reckon so, but I believe that having 0% down USDA options is good. And I also think that if you're buying a home, I believe, honestly, you're kind of going very strict scenarios, to be honest. So I think someone buying a home should be financially smart and understand what they're doing, understand that they have to make a monthly payment if it could possibly go up, that real estate taxes could go up, property taxes could go up.
Something could break.
Something could break. So I believe if you're going to buy a home, you should be all of those things. I kind of think right now you're kind of pushing examples that are a little bit, that still happen, but they're a little bit like, of course, you could look at everything and say that. People buy cars and can't afford cars.
How many people were in trouble when they bought homes in 2005? How many people are in trouble right now?
I don't actually know too many people are in trouble right now.
Yet. Right? So if you look at the data, right, and we've had a couple people talking about what may happen, and I tend to agree with this, is if you're pushing out your mortgage, you're taking forbearance or deferring your mortgage payments, now what do you do? Right?
Like I said,
that's the beauty of renting, in my opinion.
Yeah.
Because guess what? I can't afford my rent. I'm finding another place. I don't have a foreclosure on my record. And I think that's we're the argument for owning a home. I think right now we're going to find out how good or not it was, because I think very similar, like 2008, 2009, a lot of people made these decisions based on the fact that it was an investment, but then what? Can't cash out of that.
Right. I like I said, I think it comes down to, you can look at everything when it comes to owning anything, and if you're not financially smart, you shouldn't own a home. No.
Yeah.
But if you understand what you're doing when you're buying a home, I think it's a good thing, and I think you can always look at a home buying situation and say people are wrong in certain ways. So,
again, I'm not anti-home buying. I just more of like, let's pump the brakes a little bit before everybody's just like, let's do it. So either way, I digress. I know that took a ton of time. I'm sorry.
Yeah, no, so that's good. I like it. I enjoy it.
What are you the most excited about for what's happening in the next few months, weeks, days for you personally? What are you stoked about?
I am, everything for me is long-term right now, but I'm excited to potentially have enough resources and capital to start looking for my first rental. So,
and you rent right now, or do you own a home?
I own, yeah. I am looking to do that, and then 30 doors before 30 years old is my goal.
How many doors a year is that?
It's
30 for 30.
Yeah, it's like 7 divided by, it's like, 3 or 4 doors a year.
Okay, yeah, so that's definitely doable.
Yeah. Oh, yeah, it's definitely doable, and hopefully I can start increasing that over time.
Awesome, man. That's great. How do people connect with you?
People connect to me by Googling Luke Rutherford, find my Facebook profile through Google, and finding my Instagram and Twitter and YouTube all through Google. And my number will be all in my Instagram, Facebook bios, and reach out to me, shoot me a DM or shoot me a text.
Cool.
Yeah.
Awesome, man. Any parting words, closing thoughts?
I really appreciate you having me on and us discussing some things. That was cool, and I always like to pick people's brains and share kind of how the industry is treating me, and yeah, I definitely appreciate you having me on, man.
I have to ask one more question, and I can't believe I forgot, and I'm sorry.
It's okay.
So I'm going to sneak this in on the back end.
Sure.
What's happening the next 4 to 6 months in real estate here in Asheville, in your opinion?
4 to 6 months. Okay, what is it?
We're basically mid-July right now.
Mid-July.
End of July. Basically August 1st.
August 1st, tomorrow, yeah. I would say it's going to stay the same. Yeah. It's going to be the same.
Cool.
Yeah, it's going to be the same for a good while.
Sweet. Yeah. Awesome, man. Thanks so much for joining the show, guys. If you like the show, if you're friends with Luke, share the episode. Connect with him on Facebook, Instagram. He's got good stuff going on there. And we'll see you guys all on the next one. Take care.